Shalom. Shalom is a word that's used amongst the people that Jesus came from, the Hebrew people, as a greeting and imparting. It was so much more to say when we spoke to one another this word shalom than only peace be with you. It meant God be with you. It meant let us recognize the Spirit that's in each one of us, that we share in God. Let us move together and apart in harmony. There is always enough for you and for me and for everyone. It's very much in my way of seeing it, in my way especially of feeling it, as that word that's used in the culture from India of namaste. That the divine in me sees the divine in you, that we are together in this, that we are part of this tapestry, part of this harmony. Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Just a little side. The city Jerusalem is city of peace if you translate it directly. That shalom that we say is more like shalom, Jerusalem. So it's the city of peace. I had an occurrence that I just couldn't ignore. Whenever I get one of these little synchronicities, I have to bring it up. So today I'd like to read from you from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. It's a really short line, but it fits so well that I just have to read it to you. It's from the Sutra number 23 in the very first chapter. And Patanjali is talking about how we may realize our oneness with God, to use language that's common to us. And he uses a Sanskrit word in here. So I'm gonna read it as Swami Vivekananda translated it into English. Or by devotion. So this is one of the ways that we may come to know God in our own being. Or by devotion to Isvara. That word Isvara is a Sanskrit word. And the synchronicity was that I had in my inbox on Monday an email about this idea of Isvara. And it referred to this. This Isvara has got to do with giving ourself with a lowercase s to God, or self with an uppercase s. It's got to do with this harmony of our separate self with Ruah, Spirit in us. This harmony is Isvara. We practice this harmony. That's one of the ways that Patanjali is telling us that we can know God in our life. It reminds me so much of the commandment that Jesus said was the most important commandment in all of the law. That we love God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind, and with all of our strength. We give our full attention to God in everything that we do. And that's what I think Patanjali was pointing to in this sutra. The daily word today, which is world peace. The word shalom is synonymous with peace, but it's so much more than an absence of conflict. It's an affirmation of our wholeness and well-being. Anchored in peace, people are less likely to be in conflict and more likely to appreciate that the beautiful planet Earth offers goodness and abundance for all. There's no need to fight. We all have enough, and there's always enough. Let us remember this as we go through today, the International Day of Peace. And it's one thing to say that I'll give all of my attention to Spirit, to God. That I will allow my separate self to be passive as my true self, as Spirit in me becomes more active and dominant in my life. And it's quite another to put that into practice. So I'd like to share with you a technique. I've talked a little bit about it before in the form of alarm clocks. Things like a dog barking reminds me, hey, I'm going to remember the truth of who I am. Or when we come to a red light, we take a spirit break. So this is another kind of an alarm clock. And we all have it. It's called our habits. So it can be something really large, like when I gave up smoking, to something very small, like I always put on my left shoe and then my right shoe. Don't ask me why. I can remember such mechanicalness in myself, the way the separate self that's governed by these habits, that is just reacting, that is always in this mode of control. As I was giving up smoking, this was back in the year 2000, in the late summer. In August, I celebrate that anniversary. Just had another one. But I had been quit smoking for about a week, and I was still carrying a pack of cigarettes in my breast pocket. Just a technique that I was using. The idea of not doing something. I didn't have to do anything to quit smoking. I just had to not do something. Should be as easy as cake, right? But we have these habits. And one day a friend of mine came over who was also a smoker, and we started talking, and as we were talking, he started going through the motions of getting a cigarette out and pulling out his lighter. And unbeknownst to me, I had gotten my cigarette pack out of my pocket. I had put one in my mouth, and I had grabbed my lighter, which was still in my pocket. I carried that lighter around for over a year. Pulled that lighter out, and I had lit the lighter, and I had an awakening to the mechanicalness of what I was doing, of that habit. And I took that cigarette and I threw it out of my mouth. I was so amazed at how close I had come after a week. I know it wasn't the nicotine that had me at that point, because it had already been a week. It was habit. Habit is strong. But that makes them all the more a tool for our awareness. They're a really effective alarm clock. And we have so many of them that we can always move to another one when we become used to one of them being an alarm clock. So I decided that at one point that I would use putting on my shoes as an alarm clock, because I was always in the habit of putting on my left shoe first and my right shoe second. And then when I got ready to take them off, left shoe first, right shoe second. I probably had something to do with in the Army. We always start out on our left foot. I don't know. That's just my guess on where it came from. But it was an effective way to make myself aware of what I was doing while I was putting on my shoes. Instead of pulling on the left shoe first, we put on the right shoe first that morning. It can work the same way with when we step out. You know, and I know this was from the Army, because I do tend to step out with my left foot still, even to this day, because that's what we were trained to do when we were marching. So we would all start together, we would all start on our left foot and then go. And so I still do it. I find myself taking turns. When I turn a corner, I'll pivot on my toes, just like I was taught in marching. I mean, it's all these habits. So anyone habits, and I know you've got your own, they're going to be different than mine, But they can become an alarm clock. It can be a tool for us to remember the truth of who we are. In that moment, we find, oh, I'm fixing to do that habit again. It can be as simple as the way we walk, the gait. Instead of walking with that normal speed, we can slow it down. Or we can speed it up. Anything that's a little bit different from what you normally do will bring your attention to the present moment where you can be aware of the Christ within. It takes a little bit of control away from our separate self and hands it over to our true self. Because it's not separate self that's aware of the habit. It's highest and best in us. It is spirit within us. And the more we practice this with little things, the easier it is when we get into one of those situations that really gives us the trigger and brings on a fit of some action, some behavior that's not a part of who we truly are, and we know it. We know it because of the way it makes us feel in our body, because of what we do that's not in love to someone we love, or just another human being. If we're not in kindness, if we're not in joy, if we're not in peace, you can just about guarantee that we are in separate self. Breathe with it. Breathe with it. Because we're not going to beat ourselves up because we find ourselves over that line and over in separate self. Because we just realized that we were in separate self. What a victory. Just knowing that we did it. Becoming aware that, look at this tension that I brought into my body. Look at this pain. We don't celebrate the pain that we just gave another person, but we celebrate that we became aware of it. That now we have a choice. In this awareness, we can bring ourselves back to center, back to compassion, back to love, back to kindness, back to joy. This process brings peace. The same peace that we bring to ourselves is then radiated like a ripple on a pond out into the world. This is the peace of God that passes all understanding. I think that's on the front of the bulletin. What a good bulletin that Becky picked for today. I don't know if she knew it was International Day of Peace or not, but she sure picked a good one. I just want to share a couple of scriptures so you don't know that it's only coming from Patanjali, but actually Jesus was teaching this too. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells us that blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. So really to see this in its full content, we must remember that a name in Aramaic Hebrew culture is the same as saying someone's nature. In other words, we carry the nature that is our name. In the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Sacred is your nature. See? So, we're going to have the nature of being an offspring of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for their nature will be that of God. Blessed, fully ripened, sweet and juicy, fully ripened, blessed are those who are radiating this peace. For they will be claiming the nature of spirit. The prophet Jeremiah in chapter 29, verse 7 says, you got to remember here the Hebrew people are exiled. They're in Babylon. So they're in this foreign city. And you know Babylon, like Babylon, Hollywood, that's not a good thing to say about Hollywood, right? Hollywood, Babylon is kind of like Sin City. And seek the peace of the city, Babylon, where I have caused you to be carried away captives. and pray to the Lord for it. For in the peace thereof shall you have peace. In the middle of this city that is so full of strife and disconnecting from God, we are to seek the peace. Even in the middle of the furthest discord, there's always that peace. We're never without it, even in that city of Babylon. Seek that peace. Pray to the highest self in us, the Lord, the one we give authority to, the one we seek separate self to be submissive to, and we will experience that peace. Isn't that the same as saying that harmony? The harmony of separate self with true self? From that synchronicity that I had with the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I'd say that word in Sanskrit, but I can't. Didn't stick. Shalom. Shalom, shalom. Let that be our affirmation today as we remember the International Day of Peace.